ground ball, like straight in, like stop shot. Hold on, I'll say get back in. All right, now. This side. Go ahead. Let's get closer. So I can get behind you. I'm gonna get behind you. See your hand here. So, let me show you. I basically wanted to do like a whole from the ground up explanation of like kind of how I have it down, like the way that I do it and the way that I would like explain it to someone if I could do it again, like what the mechanical part of it, because I just want to show you the stance and all that right now. So for the grip, what I like to use is like ideally what you want for the is your cue on the shot line. Obviously, you want your hand, elbow, shoulder, and your vision all in the plane, right? So basically, you're going to be like addressing the ball, and then once you finally get down, all the elements ideally are in there, so that your swing is just activating like the bicep, tricep, and then if you like a little bit of elbow up and down for like clearance. If you like get down and you want to come through more. So you want to have a situation where your hand can like hinge on the cue and not have it be like rotating or like squeezing and making it go offline. So kind of the best way that I've found to do that is you kind of hold it in front of you. And what you want to do is let the end of it go to your shoulder. And I hope this is making sense, because when you finally get the plane of it, then you want to squeeze it, right? And you want to be able to squeeze it to where it just goes naturally back to your shoulder. Does that make sense? So that when you pull back, it's kind of like the same thing as coming up to your shoulder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what you want to be able to do is when you come through, you need to be able to the butt go towards your elbow. Does that make sense? So you're being able to create this hinge like this, right? So then if you do any squeezing, any tension that's created and you're releasing it, it'll at least release it on the same plane. So you can use that for power. But if you like have it twisting, that's not going to be, it's going to like be off. You see what I mean? So you need to, so that's what I try to teach people. Like that's the grip I like to use. It's a little bit looser here so that like it kind of gets tight like this. So what I try to do is make it like a little bit of a gap where the web is here.
Yeah.
So that it can like come loosely here. Otherwise you gotta like go more like this. You know what I mean? It's up to you ultimately, but I'm just like, that's just a general idea of what you want to be able to do, is be able to swing it like just keep it on the same plane with just your hand. Right? So yeah, I'd probably use the side of the thumb. More like grip it and then put your thumb like over the finger. Right? And then what'll happen is your back fingers will be loose. Like a little bit, and you kind of like can squeeze with your like pinky to create a little bit of like, you know what I mean? So now that you kind of like have that, and you can practice all this whenever. So the way when you hold it at the balance point like this underneath you, right? So it's just like it stays level, and you want it to where you're not having any tension in your hand, just hanging straight down, right? So then what you want to be able to do here is just pick it up straight up this way, like this, right?
Yeah.
So then now you're going to be able to kind of like go like this, just by bending your bicep, tricep, right?
Yep.
So now what you've got to do is, the next move is you got to be like pick it up, and then you got to be able to look straight down over the cue. So it's roughly going to be like 45 degrees from your body, but this is all going to be kind of up to you. So like what I like, if you do is if you stand like 45 to the table, you know what I mean, and as you bend over, you see what I'm doing here? It's like you want to be over the cue, but you don't want to be like guiding this. You want this to be just kind of like natural,
chilling.
because then it's like this ends up being your stroke, but then you add your bridge, and now it's a straight stroke. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've got this, you learn how to like move without having this rotating. You basically like framing. You create your frame, and then you just line your frame up to shoot the shot. You don't actually try to like make the ball. You learn how you hit the ball, where it goes when you hit it with the correct stance,
mm-hmm.
and then you just like that's your basis, and you just like work on. So, we'll go back. So I want to show you something to do here. Let me make sure I'm recording. Always like paranoid. Yes. So we're going to start out doing some one-handed shots. This will really help you figure out where your center of vision is, because I think a lot of people, like, you know, say your cue naturally wants to be here, but now you're like turning over here. You're like rotating your elbow by doing this, right? If it wants to be here, you really should be this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like you got to find out where your natural vision is, and obviously I've been doing this for a long time. So what I do is just get it to where you don't even look at the ball. Just get to where the cue is straight under your eye, and then just kind of like move to the spot, right? And then you just want to be able to get it ideally where it's floating, and then just hit it in like this. You're not actually like swinging; you're just going forward, right? Your turn. So yeah, just hold it at the balance point, and you're gonna be a little bit close. You'll feel like you're closer to the ball maybe than is comfortable, because like when you actually are playing, you're gonna be holding it further back in your bridge, right? But for purposes of this, you want to be able to just basically just bend over, but you want to be more in the stance, like down lower, like you'd be like hitting the ball. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is where it's tricky, where you got to learn how to swing it. Right. And we'll do a few of these because I want you to really get a feel for basically like you come up here and you want to be able to just not even look and just be able to kind of swing it like this underneath you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of hand, you know, the appropriate reception. But once you've got that, just think about how much more solid you're going to be with this with the bridge there. You know what I mean? The theory is that you can do it without the bridge, so then your bridge is just extra. You know what I mean?
Extra support, just a little pivot.
Exactly. It's not really necessary. Yeah. It's just as you get more finely tuned, then that's necessary. But like for the bulk motion, you shouldn't need it, because everything should be in line with the power. Should all go towards the ball and not have to be like controlled left or right.
Yeah.
So we'll do this a little bit. Yeah, and just make sure you're holding it at the balance point as best you can. You really want it to be like as loose so that it's just floating. Like, you know, you'd even do it like just with your open fingers, right? And then just learn how to make it kind of like float. And you gotta like do a little bit with your hand, right? But you really want it to be able to just go in a line. Yeah, and then once you can kind of get that line going, then now
it's tricky itself.
Oh yeah, this is all like, but trust me, once you get where we start adding elements to it. Yeah, what you want to do is don't move the cue. You want to turn your body to rotate the cue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you want to be just boom, like I said, when you're straight down, and then you just want to be able to go here, and then in order to turn it, you just move your body, and then the cue will naturally float to the spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the cue in your hand, it needs to be on that line. And then once you like learn, okay, this is what it feels like to be where I'm going to swing and it's going to go dead straight, then you learn where that's straight, then you like shoot out from there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, but trust me, this is like good amateur day one stuff. Good. Yeah, and just get down, and as soon as you're like at the center of the ball, just hit it, right? Because really what you're trying to do is teach yourself how to like get to that spot and like get to it naturally where you're not aiming. It's like more like just reps. If you get boom and you're here and you hit it, make it. That's what you want to be able to do. Is just be able to get down and swing and be accurate enough. So I think you're holding it. Yeah, just make sure you're. Keep going. Just right at the balance point. And you kind of have, like, the way I do it is like as I'm kind of going back, I'm like holding it more in the front, and then as I go forward, it's more in the back finger. Does that make sense? To keep it level. But that's kind of like the beginning of the swing, like going back and forth. It's like there's more weight in the front, and then when you come here, there's more weight in the back.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing when you're like one-handed. It goes like the weight goes to the front. Otherwise, it'll come up. Sense. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it'll come up and like this. But if you let the hand release, then it'll go forward, right? It's kind of the idea of it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just one of those things where once you get this roughly correct, now hitting the ball will be so much easier. Yeah, so let me get your stance a little bit better here. So what I recommend doing is keeping your feet roughly shoulder. What I do is like 45 degrees away from my body, and then I just bend straight at the waist. There's no rotation, right? The only rotation is like you have to turn your head.
Yeah.
You're just like bending straight forward and looking 45 over that way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of like where you have to kind of like go here, pick this up, and then this is your line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you just kind of steer it by moving. Here you go. That looks way better. And just go forward with it. Yeah, once you're at the tip, you just go forward. Boom. Yep, exactly. You don't have to backswing. That's like too much. I was just demonstrating it, but like really, you just come here and then hit it, right? Because all you really need to do is be able to get practice where you like can address the cue ball and then hit the ball. Nice. Nice. And what you're trying to do here is just get a feel for the bicep activation. You know what I mean? We'll do one of these because I think this is like one of the most helpful things for helping your vision and not having to worry about really trying to make the ball. It's more about just like feeling the natural swing of the cue. Right?
Yeah.
Because once you can let the cue ball, you know, you feel like you know, once you know where the cue ball is going to go away from your body, then you can start really aiming with the cue ball, not worrying about your body being out of line. Here you go. Good, right? And just focus on that bicep activation, because like when you strike the ball, that's what it feels like when you're doing it right. Is that little punch? That's good. Don't worry about it. This is all just repetitions.
Yep.
Nice. So what you can do is another thing you can start doing is you start kind of like keep coming into the shot straight at it. Does that make sense? Because that's, you know, long term, most players, you know, like come towards the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of like ingrain it a little bit. That's nice. So once you get the feel for that, then that's, the swing is like, it's almost like when you're bowling, you like release the ball at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. People like, I think there's a lot of different ways people like feel like hitting it, but I think that the best way to think of it, it's like you're tossing, you're like flipping something accurately.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? It's not like you're hitting the ball like hitting it like a bat. It's like you're like hella delicate, like ring toss and shit.
Gentle.
Nice.
Right. Ring toss. Cornhole.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of thing. This is not like a power game. Once your technique is good, you're not hitting the ball. It's just, you know, it goes fast, but it's not like you have to use your power. It's just like, it's more of a long swing. Good. You know, and this is teaching you how how to like roughly get down and just see what's going on, right? Nice. Let's just do the rest of these, and then we'll go to the next shot. Right. Sabotage you. How you feeling? This is something you can just practice. It helps you just see, you know, because you're not doing anything with the ball, right? So
Right.
It's just, it helps you see what's really like
what you're really controlling.
Where it's going to hit too, and like without doing much, because you just want to hit the center of the ball, just like that, just the center of the ball. At the beginning, probably for the first like 5 years, the most important thing to practice is just being able to learn how to hit the center of the cue ball. Because kind of the way it works is like, you know, if your ball is like this, you have the center, but then you have top, right, left, and bottom. But in between all of that is the center. So in order to like know what right is, you have to be able to know where the center is. Because then once you're right of center, you're like no longer center. But
if you don't know
the
where
closer
center is, then
yeah, because if you're trying to hit the center and you hit the right or the left, then that's where you make mistakes. It's like you need to be able to hit the center, because if you're trying to hit very little bit of right, you accidentally hit left, it changes the whole physics of the shot, and you'll just mostly miss, because it's not because you're not shooting the right shot, it's just by not hitting the center of the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever bridge you want is fine. Here, let me set you up with this shot here. We'll just go. Actually, the way I like to set it up, it might be a little bit too far for you to be accurate at it, but it's fine. What I like to do is this one. So you're going to hit this. I want to show you what I'm doing here. So roughly, I'm hitting slightly below center on it, but what the shot itself is to hit the cue ball, make this ball, and then it's not going to stop. It's actually going to hit it, but it's going to have a slight amount of forward rotation on it. So it's going to roll to this spot. So the cue ball is going to hit it and then roll and stop right where the 9 is. So this is what's called the sliding ball shot, which teaches you basically the difference between like draw and follow is this shot is right in between those. So any shot that you hit that's below that and any shot above that will then be either draw or follow. So you need to know it so that you can understand what's happening with the physics of the cloth. Because it's not the same if it's here versus here. This is more friction, so you have to hit it slightly lower with the same power, if that makes sense. But it's not like you're hitting the center of the cue ball. What you're doing is you're compensating for the friction of the cloth over the distance to create action at this point where the ball is. It doesn't matter what you do. This here is like you guess where you need to hit here, because really what's important is when it hits the ball, what's happening is what's important.
Yeah.
So you have to predict what English in high-low, whatever you need to do, so that you can put whatever this needs to happen, so I draw back or go forward or whatever English you need to use. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So a lot of this is just trial and error. So what I like to do, because I shot that shot a lot, I pretty much just stay where I'm going to be, and then I just get down. So what I try to do is visualize the actual shot happening in my mind before I shoot it. That's like my goal. Once I can see myself making it, then I just get down and shoot the shot. Right? See, with that shot, I hit it, cut it to the left, and then hit a little bit too low. So one of the nice things about this shot is it gives you like total information. It's like you get instant feedback for everything that you do. I'm gonna actually try to hit it good here. Jeez, I'm not even making it now. But roughly, That's kind of the shot once you hit it a few times. So you're just basically hitting it dead full. And you want to hit just slightly below center. And we're just going to keep working on it. We'll figure it out. The speed is not so important. Like I hit it with like firm speed. You can hit it softer and go lower on the tip. But it's going to be more of... Yeah, see, this is what I want you to do is line up and really concentrate on this part of it, right? Because what you've done is you came down and now you're aiming. What I want you to do is figure out how to come down, just like what I said with when you're doing that shot. You come down and you just hit the ball. Because what happens is you're creating habits by coming down and then adjusting. And then making the shot and doing it properly from there, like hitting it proper. You're teaching yourself to do all of this every time before you hit it. My recommendation is don't do that. Just get down. Like we got to decide. We should probably have this conversation now. This is why I'm doing this. So one of the things that people do, you know, is they'll like on any particular shot, right? So it doesn't matter what I'm doing, but you know about what the pre-shot routine is. So like. Before you hit the shot, all the things that you do to like get yourself prepared is called the pre-shot routine. So some people will like get down, you know, and do hella swings, and then they'll hit the ball at some point, or they'll like do some weird shit or whatever. My belief is that you're training yourself to do all that over time just by doing it. It should have a purpose. My opinion is, if I was going to teach it again, I would say, don't do that. What you want to do is just have it as simple as possible, right? So like what I do, you could do anything. You can start back here and step into it if you already like doing that. You just got to make sure you're on the line, right? But I would say you just get your hand, get set up the way you want, and then just take one stroke. There's no reason to do more than that, because if you just get down and you take one stroke, how many times are you going to just take one stroke before you figure out how to make it straight?
Right.
If you like hit it off to the left and you're like, well, that's, you know, then you just keep trying to hit it straight every time, right? So let me do, this is, I don't know, maybe we'll do it this way. Go stand over here. So we'll just hit this. What I want you to do is not concentrate on making the ball, okay? What I want you to do is just try to line it up proper, and then I want you to just, when you shoot the shot, just come and then just finish your stroke and just concentrate on having a straight stroke, right? Don't even worry about making the ball. Because learning how to line up, you already did that. You already learned how to line up. Now you just have to memorize it. By steering in that, you're just causing yourself heartache down the road. Because you're like learning. You kind of have. This is where you kind of have to relearn. That's why I say you come down where you're here, right? Once you're here, then you put your hand there and just hit the ball. Right? We can work on all the other stuff later. So what I want you to do is when you hit this ball, I want you to follow through and hold your cue at the finish position, okay?
Okay.
So when you swing, you always swing, and wherever you end up, it doesn't matter if you come down or you like hang to the bicep or whatever and your tip comes down. This is like totally standard. Like a lot of people do this. You know, no elbow movement, right? You just come to here and stop, right? That shows you that you have a straight stroke, because the only thing that really matters is that it's straight. You'll learn how to aim it. The problem is if it's not straight and it goes to the left or right,
there's no way
that never goes away.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away, and then you have to compensate forever until you get rid of it. So we're just trying to the focus should be straight stroke. I don't even try to make the ball. I just try to have a straight stroke, knowing that once my stroke is straight, it'll be consistent, and then you don't have to aim anymore so much, because it's just like you're doing it the same way every time. How long is it going to be until you learn how to do the shot? If you're hitting it the same way every time, right? You can learn faster because you don't have a question about what you're trying to do. So like I said, just come down and then just swing through and stop. Yep, good. Because, you know, that's what matters. It's just a straight stroke. Because the ball will go. If you're lined up properly and you hit the center of the ball, it'll go. All you have to do is just, if your swing is straight, See, that was slightly to the right. You know what I mean? And check it too when you go through. You know, make sure that it's straight over the spot in the situation, right? Yeah. Do you like just following through like that much? I would say the way I would do it, I mean, what I like to do is kind of have it more of an exaggerated follow through. So on this shot, you know, I just like to come through as far as the hand wants to go. I don't stop it.
Okay, just follow through all the way.
Just go as far as it goes, and then it'll stop itself. Does that make sense? Yep. Because you're just letting, once you hit the ball, all of the rest is just for checking to make sure that you're going into it straight. If you finish straight, that means you started out straight. You can't finish straight and not be starting out straight. It doesn't work that way. Once you deviate, you just go further away. Right, and just, you know, like I said, just concentrate on lining up. And then once you're lined up and you get down, you just hit the ball, right? Well, we got to be a little bit more disciplined with the speed of it. Because you want to get in, down, and then as soon as you're ready to take your swing, then hit it, right? Mm-hmm. So just make sure you're completely down and ready to hit the ball, because we're trying to dial in long term. So you can do, you know, maybe like one thing that people do. Go ahead. Keep lining just keep hitting these balls. All this is like, you get, you know, the nice thing about just beginning is that you get to decide right now or over the course of however long exactly how you want to do all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm basically just trying to give you the framework for like mechanically understanding, you know, what is really going on, so that you can then be like, okay, well, at least I got started out right, and now I can mess around. Because like your own personal flavor will express itself over time. Yeah. You know, it depends on what kind of person you are. I'm like, I have like a science background and all that stuff, so I'm very mechanically oriented. And you know, after 30 years of playing pool, I kind of reached a couple different realizations about stuff, and I'm like, you know what? A lot of this stuff, people think it matters, and it does if they think it does. But if you don't think it matters, it doesn't matter. What matters is the physics, being able to just simply execute. Because to me, it's like anything you do that deviates from like what would be, like I said, like just activating their bicep only is extra and thus not necessary. Does that make sense? We don't need more power. We don't need, like, the elbow drop that I have is not necessary. But to me, I like to follow through smooth because I want it to look smooth. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, like, if you want it to look smooth, then you just work on that. And eventually, it'll just happen because that's how you are. You know what I mean? Yeah. Your game will develop. If you're like, some people are like more like direct. Some people are like trying to be flowy. Does that make sense? So we're just gonna keep hitting a bunch of these. Because it doesn't, you don't need to learn how to, like cutting the ball, is not any different than hitting a straight in shot. It's just you're aiming for a different spot, right? But if you can't hit the spot when you're straight in, there's no reason why you should be able to hit it. Like when you're trying to cut shot is just more complicated and harder to tell what you're doing wrong, if that makes sense. So for practicing, yeah. So I want you to get down and settle a little bit more, and maybe take one like practice stroke, because partly what you want to do is get your hand ideally straight under your elbow, and I'll help you with that right now. And you got to do all this while you're bending over, because what you're doing, it's like, it doesn't matter so much what you're doing when you're standing up, because you're not standing up when you hit the shot. So you got to do all this, like, you know, like this. The best way to do it is just to bend like you would for the shot and pick the cue up as high as, right? See, so you see how your elbow is here, your hand is here, but you want it to be like this. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so you're kind of grabbing it, and your wrist is kind of engaged. So you want it to be hanging, right? And just make sure, like find here, right, where you can like move it forward and back and be over the top of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now that you're there, then put your hand just to hold the ball, hold the cue, put your left hand up, right? Yeah, so then you just need to move to the ball. This, yeah, there you go. Better. I hope this is all making sense.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because what you want to do is, you know, like I said, what I do, I'm not going to hit the ball, but I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would get set. This is the distance that I want to be at, because partly everything matters in pool. If I start out here, then I always have to start out here. If I start out here, I always have to start out here, because it's different. If I'm addressing a shot, and then I address the same shot, but I'm here, it's not the same shot anymore. Now it's closer. Like, because if I use a different bridge length, there's physics that happen here. With the center ball shot, it's not so key. But even just like hitting the spot on the ball, if I use a short bridge like this and I'll hit lower, I have to do different things with my bridge. And then any deviation here changes the angle because the pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it is that you have to ideally use the same bridge length for every shot. Because then when you go side to side spin, the physics of it is consistent. So if you like are not addressing the cue ball the same way every time, then this will be different because you'll be closer, further away, whatever.
Yep.
And then that is a whole thing that you have to deal with forever without, and if you don't know that. So what you got to kind of do is find a way to like get yourself where this is the distance I want to be at. And then from there, you either step in or I just start out, like the way I do it is I just keep my hand at my hip. So my right foot, what you want really is your right foot to be kind of where underneath the cue. So I'd say your right foot basically is on the shot plane as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's for most people. Some depends on how you stand too. Some people like to stand with like one like this. This creates space here so their hand has more clearance. I like to squat a little bit because I'm shorter and I like to keep my body more vertical. So I kind of like squat.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dom was like hella down,
right.
You know, hella down, and like that's everybody has a thing, and it's just your body's your body, and you have to develop, you know, your own game based on that. So I just want you to like be consistent as you can with your distance. So that you're always basically cueing and hitting the shot from the same distance away. Like when you're visualizing it, you want to be the same distance away so that it's more the same every time. Because you're just trying to be consistent. Yeah, so maybe you can get down and then take one swing and then your final swing. Try that. Did you feel like the swing was going to be where you want it to be?
I don't know. I don't feel like I put as much power into it.
So one thing I'll also say is where your eyeball is not over the plane of the shot. So see what I'm doing is I'm bending over. But you see how when I bend over, I'm bending your body is you gotta think about more 45. Like when I look down, it's like the cue comes 45 away from my hip, right? And then I just by being my hips 45 from the shot, that's all you have to do is get your hips 45 from the shot. And then when you bend down, you just bend your butt backwards so that your eye comes straight down. You see?
Mm-hmm.
However you do that, you know what I mean? You got to just go lower yourself straight down, you know, however you do. Some people like back up. Like I used to back up like this. You know, a lot of players will step in so that they'll be like low, boom, boom. There's so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is you want your vision center to be. Figure your thing out. I mean, whatever you were doing before, you can still do. You just got to adapt and make sure that you're focusing on this keeping your elbow and your hand in alignment as much as you can, so that it's just simpler for you long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, so when you're that one-handed thing holding it at the balance point, that was just for that one-handed shot, okay? For when you're playing pool, you just hold it wherever you are comfortable with. Like I hold it, and I'm always holding it. I pretty much just hold it like this, which like
your elbow
under my elbow, because like when I take a full stroke, that's where it ends up. So this is on the shot plane, right? Like this is so that when I swing, it's straight, because it's always straight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I just kind of hold it like this, and then I'm looking down to where it's like wherever I'm standing, the cue is the shot line. I just this is where it's going to go, because this is how I have it set up. When I get down, it's there. It doesn't have to move. I have it set from the beginning like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole game is based around basically like, one way to explain it is if this is perfect alignment, right, where the cue is in exactly the spot that needs to go. Say, for instance, that I'm going to shoot in the side, and that the line that it's on is perfect, right? Say that that's true. Now all I have to do is just put it here, and then go here. Now, as long as I hit this spot where I'm aiming, it must go, because I'm just returning the cue to the same position, but now it's moving. But it was perfect, right? That's my theory about it. Is like, okay, the line is right. Now I get down, and then now it's there already. It's already perfect. All I have to do is just swing back straight and forward straight, and it's in. That's the theory, right? Here you go. It's looking better. Just take a practice stroke, and you want to like, if you see when you get down that you're like a little weird, that's okay, but recognize these reps are going to show you where you need to be, and then that's the learning of it, right? It's all going to happen kind of like as you go. But all you got to do is just, like I said, do your best to practice your straight stroke all the time. That's all you want to practice. Being able to make the shot with a straight stroke is what matters, because there are no pros that have non-straight strokes. That's the only thing you must have. Everything else is like, okay, I don't know. But all the pros, every single one.
But like the most important thing.
That is, well, yeah, because if your stroke's not straight, then now when you're deviating from like, and all of a sudden you're shooting the shot off the rail, if your stroke's not straight and you have to shoot this shot, you're in trouble. Right. Like serious trouble. And that shot comes up a lot of the time. Because you start out with basically the ideal situation in pool is where your hand is on the cloth and you're like, can use your perfect stance, right? Then like the rail and stuff like that creates an adaptation, if that makes sense, where you have to adapt your body to a compromised situation. If you're elevated over a ball, all that stuff, those are all adaptations from what you'd basically be like, this is like perfect scenario. You know what I mean? This is like as simple as it gets, and then once you get this dialed in, then you move to the more advanced stuff, and that becomes just easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd focus on turn your body more, and like kind of like, if you see what I'm doing here, you see how my head is like forward, but I'm not facing the shot like you are. Like I'm facing this way, you see? But I'm looking this way. That's what you need to do. You need to face that way and look this way. There you go. And now when you bend over, straight at the hips like this, now you're over the shot line, right? And then you can just come at it. There you go. It's better. Does that make sense though?
Yeah.
Because what's happening is if you're standing, if your cue is here, like look where I'm at. Look at me. See, you see how my cue, my eye is over here, And even though I might be lined up straight with my eye, like if I line up straight with my eye, it's here. But see, the cue is over here. Mm-hmm. This isn't straight. Straight is when your cue and your eye are in the same line. In order to do that, you kind of have to bend over, or you have to like go side to side a little bit. Or you stand further back, and then when you get into it, there we go. So there's a lot of ways to do it. Like I said, a lot of players, most players, will stand further back and then kind of step into the shot, and that's a whole like sequence, which I don't know. I've seen it, you know, you can look at any player at the top level, and they're all going to have a lot of different things going on, except for the straight stroke. That's the other thing. So as you get better, you can start kind of like mimicking the players that you really enjoy watching, and kind of adapting their style, because at the end of the day, that's like you gotta have an ideal to strive for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I like to like just tell people like whoever your favorite player is, as long as they're not like totally different body style than you, you should be able to adapt some of the elements of their game that you really enjoy to your own game. And then there you go. So that was the shot that you were trying to learn. It's just you just want to hit dead center of the ball. Straight stroke. You know. How do you feel? Better?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just reps.
Feels a lot more controlled.
Mm-hmm.
This way.
There you go. Great. You know, anytime you feel like the stroke's not feeling good, then just go back to that as your focus. You can't stress enough the importance of having a stroke that's straight.
Yeah.
You know, because under the pressure of any pressure situation, any little inconsistencies or like flaws you have in your game will magnify. They will kill you. If you trust your stroke, you can trust it at any time. That's the thing. You have to trust your stroke because that's what hits the ball. So it's like that's how it goes. You have to develop a stroke that you can trust. Otherwise, you're never going to get far because you don't trust yourself. And then if you don't trust yourself, you can't really go for it with your full will. Good. And literally, we could shoot the same shot forever, and it would be worth it. Because as you keep doing it, you'll be like, okay, now I'm starting to be like, where my hand is getting more better. Yeah, you know. Let me. Yeah, and I'd say you're choked up a little bit.
How do you mean?
Like further forward to where when you're down on the shot, your hand is like in front, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that. And the problem is that you're like wasting some of the cue length.
Yeah. By
being that far forward. You really want to be like straight here, like ideally hand directly under the elbow. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like that shot. Yeah, see, that's better. As far as that goes, it just takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
It's like hard to show people like how to like, I don't know. Another thing you can do. This is kind of fun. Is that if you like, here, take this thing for a second. Okay. Let me show you this shit. This is like another thing to do. Hold this kettlebell to your side, just like bend at the waist, right, and then just pick it up, just yeah, exercise that, right? Seeing like just this is forcing, like it's hard to have it like go side to side.
Yeah.
Right. So now if you can just like bicep a little bit, right? Here you go, and then just like this is the position that you want to be in when you strike the ball. It's just roughly that weight. That's where you want to be. So just kind of like memorize that proprioception wise. Does that make sense? Your body in space. That's where your hand wants to be. Does that make sense? If you have your hand there, then that's pretty much perfect. Yeah, because the cue's light, so you can do whatever you want with it. That's the thing.
Right, but that's the goal.
Yeah, but you want to be there because that then. What happens is if your your elbow, your upper arm, this arm is perpendicular, then as you're stroking through, even if you're not perfect, what the cue will be going directly parallel with the earth at the moment of contact, which is what you want. If you're forward like this, then it's going to be coming down, and if you don't have your bridge length perfect, then you'll hit above or below where you want. But if you're perfectly down, then if you're in the middle of the cue ball, then you'll hit the middle exactly where you want it to. See how it goes down afterwards?
Yep.
If you're like forward already, then you're kind of going down, and you have to compensate that by moving your hand like this, which is why my elbow comes down, because I'm short enough to where if I'm like reaching out here, then I have to swing like this. Does that make sense, to hit the ball when it's far
Where it'll
away?
stay straight in the ball.
Exactly, yeah, like on a longer shot like this. Something like this, right? This is not good here. And I'm like, this is even good. Over here, this is better. See, like this, you see how I'm here, but when I swing through, I'm gonna like see how my hand comes forward, because I'm short. I don't want to use the bridge all the time. So because of that, I like learned the adaptation. You're taller, so you might not have to, but I'm just letting you know that having your hand under your elbow is super advantageous if you can learn how to do it at the beginning, because then you'll just be that way forever. And that's like pro level technique is basically, that's the ideal. Anywhere close to that's fine. And you don't, like, none of this is like needs to be, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, it's like you do want to kind of strive for that at the beginning. Why not? Like, learn it proper, and then forever you'll basically know exactly what you're doing. And you can, and I'm just giving you ways to check up, you know what I mean, like check your technique over time, you know? And you're hitting that ball pretty good, really. There's not much more of the first lesson, because I think this is really the most important thing, is just getting these reps in.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah, just learn how to swing your hand and just swing and just have the bicep action. That's the good shit. You know, because that's basically where you want to be. Like, finish the stroke. You want to stay down on the ball too, because kind of what you want to do is you want to watch as much of the shot happen while you're down as you can, so that you can get used to what it looks like. As you get more advanced and you like start playing your cue ball position more precisely, you know, that'll be, it aids in your visualization if you stay down on the ball. Because if you like hit the ball and then you just kind of look up to see what happens, it's all happening at the site that you're at when you're down on the ball. If you're standing, it's not exactly the same. That makes sense.
Yep.
It's like all your visualizations happen while you're standing. If you're looking at the shot, right, then when you actually get down on the ball, you're looking at a slightly different perspective. And it's as you get more advanced, you have to like imagine yourself being down on the ball. Good. You know what I mean? Yeah, and just, you know, trying to hit it dead straight, cue ball dead straight into it. Ideally, it does not deviate left or right. That's the goal for this. Pretty good. Yeah, just a couple like practice strokes. You don't want to do anything that takes a long time, because that, like I said, that just develops into a longer habit that you have to deal with forever. And I think that you kind of want to have like a confident game at the beginning. And to me, there's nothing more confident than someone that just gets down and shoots the shot like, oh, quick. not hella quick, but like confidently, like
right, not
I just
having
get
to guess a
down,
little bit, just
get ready, and then just hit the shot and make it. That's what that's what the spectators and the fans want to see. They don't want to watch someone doing all this weird shit. You know what I mean? Fucking down on the shot for 30 seconds. For what? Most, great players, they don't do that. So, like, there's no reason to learn how to do it, because I think a lot of people, they think, okay, I need to make this ball, so I'm going to, like, do all this delicate aiming and verifying and making sure that it's all legit. But all that is like, you're basically just trying to, it's like you're lifting something heavy by just powering the shit out of it versus using a tool to help you.
Yep.
But that's the difference. It's like, yeah, you can do it that way. You can fucking work hard and get it and fucking bust your ass. But if there's an easier way, you should use it. That's my opinion. Because it's like, you're 20 years old. You play pool your whole life. That's 50, 60 years.
Right.
I mean, if
you're
you're
playing
doing
pool
it
more than I haven't.
If you're doing it the hard way, and you're like, every time you get down to the ball, you're reinventing the wheel, which is basically what you're doing by not just learning how to stroke the ball straight. If you stroke your cue straight, well, how long is it going to take for you to learn how to make any particular shot if you know that your swing is consistent? Everyone else that doesn't have a consistent swing is like works hard.
Yeah.
Because they have to like figure it out. Every stroke is like an unknown. Right? If you start out with that as your known, you're just setting yourself up for success later. Yeah, there you go. You're developing. I'm going to let you develop your own thing. Because that's how it is. It's like it has to feel right.
Yeah.
As long as the elements are there, you get your own timing, your own everything. You get to design everything you're doing. I'm just here to like give you the mechanical information.
Right. You're just
It's just like when professor like, oh, do it the way I tell you to do it. And then you do it that way. And then, yeah, maybe it doesn't work precisely the way it does for a professor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you learn it his way. And now, 10 years from now, you'll figure out why he was doing it. He doesn't tell you at the beginning because you don't need to know that. I'm just explaining like, okay, mechanically, this is.
But he knows why.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter why it does work. What matters is that you do it that way so that you're doing it the way that works. And then from there, once you're advanced, now you add your flavor. You know what I mean? But at the beginning, you just want to learn mechanically what's the simplest way to do it, which most black belts are basically doing it that way because that's the good shit. Because you got to be able to rely on it. You got to rely on your technique. So you want to have solid technique. It doesn't have to be crazy good. It just has to be solid. If you want to go pro, then at the end of the day, your stroke is what hits the ball.
Yep.
You gotta think it's the system that hits the ball that does the thing. It's like step by step, use the same steps, develop your technique and your steps in your mind. This is my process. You know what I mean, and make it as simple as possible. There's no reason to add extra steps that don't add any extra function.
Yeah.
You don't taught me that at building these things, man.
Dude, it's the thing about pool is like it's basically a simplified version of actual reality. You have to deal with physics. You have to deal with different situations. You have to deal with humans and other things while it's all going on. All that stuff is it's the same as jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
All the information that you gain from pool, like the discipline, the imagination, and all that stuff, is all useful in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it's pretty. Once I started doing jiu-jitsu, that really like locked it in for me. I was like, dang, dude, I gotta simplify my pool game because I can see there's a lot going on here that's not helping me, and anything that's not helping you is hurting you. That's how I look at it, because you could be using that extra power for something else.
For something good.
Yeah, exactly. Or just to focus on the important shit.
Yep.
So I'm just like, you know what? Simple is best. Efficient is best. Do it if it's effective, and and it's sustainable, that's better than something that is like effective and unsustainable. Like working too hard, working too hard when you could be using tools. That's why humans are at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Because we understand how to use tools. You gotta learn how to use them and why you use them, and then you gotta figure, okay, now how am I gonna make my body be a machine, basically, so I can do this shit like a master as soon as possible. Yeah, and then focus on another thing is once you have your shot line, right? Try to keep your head on the shot line the whole time. You're kind of readjusting and kind of going off and back a little bit. So what you might want to try to develop is, let me do one. So you can start out low like this, right? But what I recommend is if you're going to start out low, just start out where you're going to be and like figure out your distance. I'll show you. Here, come over here. So what I do is I hold my cue at my hip, right? And I have my head over. So I'm bending, partly rotating, and then you see how my hand is really close to my hip, right? By doing that, now when I bend over, you see how I'm bending over, but the cue and my hand are not moving, right? So what you want to do is bend your butt away as you're coming down. So when you're looking here, you want to be not like bending forward. You want to be bending back like you're sitting, almost like you're about to sit. Does that make sense? And if you do that, then your head will come straight down more easily.
Cool.
Like this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's what's up. Good. There you go. Yeah. About that.
Strong. More confident.
It looks really good. Because I'm paying attention to your like verticalness of the staying on the shot plane, because that is huge. That's a huge part of it. Is just being able to maintain
that
your vision while you go down on the shot. That is one of the toughest things. It's like there's good players that I see that are like over here, and then they get down on the ball, and you're like, dang, dude, I don't know how you can even hit the ball. It's like you're over there.
You're like way over here.
You like somehow learn how to shoot a shot by being on the wrong line while you're looking at it. It's like weird, but you make it work. There's no reason for it. It just doesn't make any actual sense. It's just that people that are intelligent, after a certain point, they think they know, and they don't listen anymore. And then that holds them back, because it's like if you don't trust other people, that's fine, but you should trust good information by testing it. You know what I mean? Like if you don't believe me, that's fine, but you should test it to prove me wrong.
Totally.
That's what you should do. Is like do it for a while and explain to me why this is not as good as what you're doing.
For you, right?
Yeah, like why is your thing better than my thing? I'm not trying to say that my thing is the jam. It's my jam. But like I'm been developing all the time. I'm trying to get better. As soon as somebody shows me something that's interesting, I'm about to work on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I want to get better. We gotta do a little bit of bridge work here soon. Yeah, there you go. And what I like to do with the bridge.
Do you always do a closed bridge? I've never really paid attention to it.
Mostly, I mean, I do what I need to do. I do both. On this shot, I'm pretty much using open bridge. Most shots I'll do open bridge, which I think is like pretty standard. There's like a lot of pros that use strictly closed bridges, but mostly it's a combination. I think the open bridge is easier for like sighting. I think like the best way to analogize it is to like shooting a gun. where you like the barrel is the shaft. By having the barrel only be like in front of your hand, that's like not as good as the whole cue. Does that make sense? One thing I like to do when I'm shooting shots, because I like I said, I keep my distance where I'm at, where I'm going to be able to shoot the shot without moving forward. So I'll just bend down and I just make sure to pick up my cue, like however high or low I go is just like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because like the way the pool is like your left hand is like the art part of the hand. This does the work. This controls the work. The detailed shit happens with this hand. So it's like when you want to like be finely tuned, you know, like I want to be low, this is what does it. This is what like makes it all happen. Mm-hmm. And then you stroke straight with your backhand, straight. You aim with this hand. Backhand is what moves straight all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So you're just going to develop like different bridges, and I can help you with that. But truthfully, an open bridge is like 99% of the time going to be fine. There's like a few situations where I'd say that you should use an open or a closed bridge, but honestly, there's a lot of pros. There's like not a lot of pros, but there's one pro that's like basically it's like the closed bridge is like some people think the closed bridge like makes it to where you miscue less often, and they did an analysis on it. It's not true. So there's that. It just doesn't matter. So then it's just like whatever your comfort is what matters.
Yep.
You know, but an open bridge is good for some things, but then a closed bridge is nice for like cueing over balls. You know, where you know, when you're on the rail, it's like hard to develop like an open bridge when you're like, you know, over here. Then you need a closed bridge because you kind of like can't. You know what I mean? There's all this kind of shit you have to do. You know, like all these kinds of things. That's when you need the closed bridges most often. If that makes sense, it's like when you're on the rail, because you can't just like, you don't want to be necessarily like back here, but you can't have an open bridge on the rail like this. It's too high, because you want to always have your cue as level as possible. Ideally, you want it like parallel with the earth.
Right. So if it's a
because like any verticalness, like elevation of angle, then some of the energy goes into the cloth, and then that can cause if you have any side spin. When you hit like right and you're hitting down, it's going to make it turn. So if you're hitting like dead straight, it won't turn. But if the more level it is, the less that effect is in play. So you want to have your cue as level as you can all the time. You know, unless you're trying to like do something that needs an elevated cue. But you're good. You're already doing that. So I'm not doing that. I'm just mentioning it in case you think it's a good idea later. It's not. Yeah, it's looking good, man. It's smooth. It doesn't have to be like fancy. That's the thing people think.
right.
Fancy. Fuck that, man. Just smooth. Do the work.
Smooth,
Do the work. You know, it just once you get a little bit, you know, more advanced, you can do more stuff, and your stroke will just get more clean. All this stuff, like I said, this is day one. If you like, you know, at home, you practice, you hit like, you know, 50 of these a day. Your stroke is just focus on your stroke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focus on your lineup and then make sure you're just straight stroke right over the spot every time and check that, you know. It's difficult at the beginning because there's so many different things you have to pay attention to.
Right.
But as you progress, you can only have your awareness on one thing at a time. So kind of the way that it is that you're forcing, if you're like paying attention to like say your alignment, right? You're basically like then forced to let the rest of your body be on autopilot, whatever your direct habit is at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, you have to kind of cycle and pay attention to different things over time. And when you want to work on something specific, you just focus strictly on that and then develop that. Just like, you know, I'm working on my neon belly. You know what I mean? So you just like practice neon belly. That's, you know, that's how you get better at it. You don't get better at neon belly by, you know, just rolling. You have to get into that spot.
By the way, you did help me with my neon belly game on Sunday, so I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, you got it now.
I only realized it this morning. I was
didn't
like,
know what I did.
I had you in knee on belly, and you started tripping out, and it made me realize that I had my weight on my back leg more than I had it on the knee.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I just shifted my weight more on the knee.
Get some pressure in there, bro. You know, get that.
Because I never go knee on belly because I can never keep him from squirming. But that's because I realized I had my weight always on my post leg and not my knee on belly.
And you want to be like, the way I do it, because I have small feet anyways, is I like don't have my foot on the ground. Mm-hmm. I have my foot like tucked into their hip. If that makes sense.
Ooh, yeah.
Like if this is it, then I'm like here.
Right, and then like the top of your foot is on their
hip, and then I use my other hand to hold their hip on the other side. Right, and you just pull. You pull into the knee, like this, right? And then that's kind of how you keep them there.
Keep their hips control.
Yeah, you just ride them that way. And then this one is just to stay up there. You know, this one and this one.
Yeah,
so
keep them
collar
from pushing you up.
That, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, pool is like that too. It's like you got to work on one move at a time. But the moves in pool is like your stroke is the move. It's like the shot that happens here is kind of like secondary to just your overall ability to just swing the cue straight, because everything is easier to learn when your stroke is straight and when you can line up properly and consistently. It's like every time you shoot a shot and you get a reaction, if you don't do it right, you won't know necessarily what you did wrong. Mm-hmm. So then, and not just that, but you could do two things wrong and then it could work out. And now you may have like accidentally taught yourself two bad habits at once. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because it works. It works. So I do it this way, but I'm like, yeah,
but it's a bad habit. So does it
really? But yeah, it's like it will only work for this situation and maybe other ones that are similar. But what you really want to do is have something that always works, and then you just learn how to use that for more situations. And then now you can use like less and less of that crazy stuff needs to be alive in your game to have your effective game. Like once you learn this kind of stuff, then I have like way more advanced stuff that I want to show you. That's not really advanced. It's just the basics that people don't really spend time on, because as soon as you learn how to draw the ball, spin the ball, then all of a sudden that becomes like the most fascinating thing.
Right.
And then 10 years later, you got to come back to this stuff because you didn't learn it right. And now you wonder why you're like not advancing. And it's like, well, the problem is that the whole time
drawing shots aren't always 100%.
Exactly, because it should be to where what you're doing right now is you should be approximately using like the same pace for every one of the strokes. And getting that speed down. And then,
same velocity, same.
Yeah, because you have basically like at the beginning you have like 3 speeds: soft, medium, and hard. Yep. Right, and I have like 100 speeds of cue ball. You know what I mean? I'm like, I can delegate, which is fun. Because I practice hitting soft, hard, medium, not so hard. In fact, to the point now where I don't even think about the pace of it more so than I just like make sure I'm doing what it needs to do. To me, it's like I'm at the level where it's like, for instance, like a shot like, let's put this one out here. So this is a straight in ball. If you put this on the spot. So this is the shot that I practice, which is the same shot as what you're doing, but harder. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's the same thing. Just boom. Straight stroke. My hand is a little bit sticky right now, so I think I'm struggling with that. Plus I'm talking. Maybe I'll actually hit one here. Good.
It's a big table.
It's the same thing, so gotta connect here. Jeez. The main thing is the straight stroke, because that's all I'm really working on. The lineup, eventually you figure out where you need to line up. If that makes sense. I was hitting that ball all day today, but I'm kind of like tired, and then jiu-jitsu I kind of like get weak the day after jiu-jitsu.
Man, we were going to go to class this morning, but it was like rainy and cold and gross outside, and we were like, man, we're already going to be working on a table in a garage today. We're just save our energy. Screw this.
Right.
Which,
yeah,
that table, it's an old diamond, and
Oh, the old diamonds.
And yeah, and the rails, how you connect them, the corner pieces have these weird like C-shaped brackets with a weird like barrel looking attachment that goes in it. You know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've seen it.
The older diamonds are just.
And it was missing one of them.
Oh shit!
So we couldn't do. We like did all the rail feather strips. Dom waxed it, and I was like putting them all together, and I was like, oh, we're missing one. He was like, all right, we'll go to the hardware store, find one that fits it, and we'll go from there. And well, dude was like, oh, well, I'll just call Diamond. And so he called Diamond, and Diamond was like, yeah, we can ship it tomorrow. And so now we have to wait again. And because I mean, now the table will be perfect. Now it's not Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
The table will be perfect because we let it set for a couple days through the weekend to let the leveling be perfect.
All right. So the next thing I want you to do is when you get down, go all the way down before you start moving your backhand. Okay.
Okay.
Ideally, like I said, like what you want to do is, like if you're here, I mean, I have trouble with this too, because I kind of like, what I do is I get my hand like in the right place, and then I just swing once. I know it looks like it's practice strokes, but it's kind of like I'm just getting my hand in the right place. But ideally, I think you want to be able to get down, and then, boom, right? There you go. So another thing that I want to, maybe we can make this happen. This is a little bit more advanced, but as you get better, this will be something that you got to work on.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things about like pro level strokes is your swing needs to be, it's like you need to segregate it into two motions, backwards and forwards. Okay, it's not back and forth is not the swing. It's just back is back, and then the actual swing is the follow through. So when you get down, what you want to do is come back and then pause for just a brief moment, and then come forward. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Where is it? So you want to have like a smooth transition to the forward, and that, because basically what you're doing is you're like, okay, I trust that my stroke is good, and now I can just follow through. Right? The slow transition from the backswing to the forward swing is like a huge part of touch and pool. And it just takes a level of trust in your stroke that most people don't have, and that's why they do the choppy stroke, because they're just like, you know, I mean, that's not going to do it at the end of the day. And it takes a long time to develop, because you just got to be like down, you know, and then boom. So what you're doing is, if your hand is moving backwards, like I'll just, from a physics standpoint, brief segue. If you pull back and you don't like pause here and then you swing forward, think about the energy. So if you pull back and you come this way, you actually have to stop your hand from backing up and then use power to go forward. So it's a less efficient motion. And there's also room for error because you have to stop the cue. If you just come back and then go forward, what you're basically doing is like the way that I have it set up, which is what, remember when I was talking to you about the like lifting the cue?
Yeah.
You have to lift the cue, and then the higher the cue goes, the more power you have on the way forward. But that only works if you stop and then go forward. If you pull back, then you have to like use your bicep just to stop your hand from coming backwards.
Right.
So like you have to get used to just activating tricep, and then once you've reached the right amount of tension for the power of the shot, then you come forward, right? Because you're just like building tension, building gravity, and then you're releasing it through the forward swing, right? So in order to capture that power, you have to slowly back up and then come forward. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You can do whatever you want, but I found that is like the consistent way you'll get way more power too because you're not going to be using your own strength. You're going to be using gravity.
Yep.
And the leverage of the gravity. That's where like the hand squeeze can give you like so much power because it makes the cue stay on that line. I was wondering about that one.
You were wondering about that one?
You gotta just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just reps, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the funny thing is like if you, like I said, if you enjoy pool and you're not planning on quitting, I mean, I'm not gonna quit.
not.
I've thought about it, but I've taken time off, but I'm not anymore.
I mean, I'm thinking of my pool, like my jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Dom told me yesterday, or I think it was actually at the gym. He was like, "You're gonna be a black belt longer than you're gonna be anything else, like any other belt."
100%. This is
So I
the
was
same.
like, "Dang, yeah, you're right.
This is the
I'm gonna
same.
be once I get good at
Eventually,
pool."
you will max out at pool, but
Mhm.
not until you're like 45
Right.
to 50. You know, that's like where most people start to like ease off because your vision goes. If you have unhealthy lifestyle habits and stuff, then your body starts to break down.
Mm-hmm.
But it, like, I'm basically, my whole thing about for people that are like, okay, you know, you might as well start out with the intent of doing it forever and learn it right the first way. Learn how to do it sustainably. Learn how to do it to where your body's not getting broken down and you're fundamentally sound. And then from there, you know, you can decide, okay, well, I don't, you know, you can take time off, and when you come back, you know how to restart because you're not reinventing the wheel because you're just using sound principles the whole time. Like, Dom was like, "Oh, your jiu-jitsu is so good," and I'm like, "Well, it is. It's good as it is, but the only reason it's just mostly because I just rely on principles. I don't like have specific moves. You know, like I've been learning simple shit.
Yeah.
And I've been doing simple shit the whole time, and that's why my jiu-jitsu is going to be good because I have the same game now that I will have when I'm 60. I'm not trying to do anything that young guys are doing necessarily. Sorry about distracting me.
No, you're good.
But pool's the same way. It's like once you can be like, I can bend down 1,000,000 times and get back up and not be in pain. That's where you want to be. That's what happens. Pool is like you're gonna hit, I mean, potentially millions of shots in your life.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shoot.
Depends on how many you do. But it's like if you have a table at home, you get a little bit of the tism, then this is right up your alley, dude. It's like you just work on your shit forever.
I feel like I have like the colors and shapes tism. Card games and I was really good at like card magic tricks, like card sleight of hand magic tricks and stuff when I was in elementary school. I had a handful of card tricks at my school.
Yeah, you're looking way better, dude. I'm just pretty satisfied right now. Just one day.
Well, I have a good teacher.
Progress. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm trying to we got the kids, man, so it's like, it's not really about me anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to get better at pool because I have to, not because I want to necessarily. It's just that's where we're at. It's too late. It's too late to do something else. Like, I'm not going to go pro at jiu-jitsu.
Right.
You know what I mean? I know that. I love jiu-jitsu.
I have the option to go either way, really, if I wanted to.
You could advance your I mean, that's the thing is you could do both potentially.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I just wanted to set you up like early on because, you know, there's so many, well, and then, you know, once Vic and I opened the room, dude, it's like it's going to be action the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, all the gamblers are going to be there because that's where, you know, that's just the way it is. The best players play on 9-footers. Because 9-footers is the real deal. This is not a joke, you know.
Especially when there's money on the line.
Yeah, well, yeah, money and ego.
For real. Yeah, street cred.
Dude, yeah, you know, just keep lining up as good as you can, focusing on coming down straight as you can, you know, on the shot line. Yeah, there you go. So my whole theory is just get your cue to the position and then get your body around and then just go back, you know, take that swing. You know, there's nothing fancy there. And truthfully, that will get you a pro level because you're basically going to get me to basically pro level shorts, you know, top pro. But I mean, before my son was around, I was on my way. You know, I didn't start playing full till I was 18. So it's like,
oh really?
Yeah. So,
I thought you were a little older. Okay.
Yeah, I started
thought
playing
you were like 25, 26 whenever you started for some reason.
I was basically like, I won my first open tournament, which had, you know, a couple 700 Fargo players in it when I was like 24.
Dang.
Maybe a little bit younger than that. And then, but it was all, I mean, that was one of those things where after it happened, I couldn't make a ball for like weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was so worn out just from that whole experience. I just basically just powered my way through it. Just like used every ounce of strength that I had, all my adrenaline. After that, I didn't even know what to do for a while. It was weird. It was like years and years and years before I was able to win another one. I just was like, wasn't ready. You know, my technique was back, you know. Because I didn't have anybody to teach me. I was basically trying to learn on my own. Okay. So let me ask a brief question here. Is how are you aiming this shot?
How am I aiming?
Yeah. What do you like? How do you calculate that you're full? Do you have like a feel for it, or do you like have a method?
What, like my pullback and like the speed?
No,
and all
like
that,
how do you know you're lined up right? Or how do you know that it looks right? Or like when you're down on it?
So it's super funny. I imagine just another cue stuck to the end of this one. And so I put that directly where this needs to go. So I'll like put, like let's say this goes here, right? I would just put the other cue straight through it.
Okay.
Or even if it's like, if the cue ball's like right here, I'd put one cue here, and then I would have mine go through here, and I'd find where it meets.
Okay. Interesting.
Just a straight line. Pretty much.
I gotcha. I was just curious. We'll go over that.
When I was a kid, I had to have been maybe Clyde's age. Don was like, man, just imagine two sticks. Two of these sticks. Those are your lines. Aim like that. And I was like, oh, okay. Stuck with it.
Yeah, if you ever have struggles, let me know. I mean, I use the ghost ball, which is basically like I visualize the ball right here.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter where the ball is at. If you're here, it's still the same spot.
Right.
So that's why I use that system. It's just there's some physics that you have to correct for, but that's all pretty simple once you like. If you played like basketball, you know, or tennis or something like that, ping pong, this shit is the same. It's like all the ball games are the same.
Yeah, totally.
As far as the way the ball reacts, all balls are the same. You just have to understand, like, okay, what does it mean for this game? How do I adapt to the ball roll turning, the spinning? You know what I mean? Because the spinning is what is tricky. When you start using spin, then that opens the door to like exponentially more complicated scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then from there, it's like you can learn the math. You don't have to, though. It doesn't matter because it's an experiential game. Like, as long as you get it, that's what matters. It doesn't matter if you know, like, the fucking equations behind it all. That doesn't matter. The equations are only to describe what you're doing, not to do it. Do you know what I mean? The equations tell you what's going on. They don't make it happen. You make it happen. So you don't need to know the equations. Those were all developed after the fact. If that makes sense. So I'm not trying to tell anybody how to, like, sight the ball, because that's not what's up. You just do it. If you have trouble, then we'll talk about it. My whole visualization is I just visualize where, you know, if it's like the ball needs to go here, that's where the cue ball needs to go. It's simple.
Yep.
There's nothing to it.
Dom has like a short cue with a ghost ball on the end of it.
Yeah, we had that for the kids.
Yeah.
Logan had one, but he broke his. He's fucking swinging it around and fucking it up. course. But he's on to bigger and better things. I'm trying to get him to upgrade to a full length cue. But what I really would love to find is a cue with a small, thin handle for like small handed units.
Oh, like this thing back
handle.
here.
Yeah, like the same as this, all the way down. You know what I mean?
So it's not so.
Yeah, because it's like that's part of it.
Yeah.
Because he plays here and then he plays at his mom's house and they have a 9-foot over there too. So it's like,
Oh dang, where do they have a 9-foot over there?
it's in the garage.
Huh?
Yeah. Let's see what time it is here. Hour and a half. Okay, really good so far. A little bit off. All right, what else can we work on that wouldn't be too? Really not much. I feel like you got the basis of what. I think you have a good idea of where you want to go with it, which is all I really want to do is just send you off in the right direction with the right knowledge, the minimum that you need to get by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if you understand about like English and all that yet at all. Do you want to have like talk about that?
About
Like what English does and how you do all the stuff, or do you want to mess with that?
Yeah.
All right, so let me talk about cut shots first. So, because cut shots, there is stuff that you have to deal with, like especially when these balls are not super dirty, but when a ball is like coming across another ball and cutting it, by the action of the balls, the two surfaces are basically like coming and they'll touch at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't just like release, they stick together briefly. Okay, that's how it works. So you gotta understand, the softer you hit it, the more of that effect is in play. The harder you hit it, the quicker they release.
Okay.
They bounce off each other, but like the slower you hit them, the more they grab, which is a feature and a bug, basically. The better you get, the more of a feature it is, because you can do it on purpose, and that allows you to then do more stuff with the game. And then, you know, so basically on a cut shot like this, if you're hitting it hard, you just hit it right to the spot that you need to. If you're hitting it softer, you actually have to aim a little bit thinner, because when it actually releases, it's gonna like release like here, if you watch. So if I aim and hit this softly, it might even just grab, right? But when the balls are really clean, it's not as easy to see. But then if I do something like, if I use left English here, see, I can aim like here, and then use left English, and then that actually throws the ball to the right. Where what it allows me to do, and it's hard to tell, I guess, because it's like almost like I can't do it on purpose anymore, like make it throw. My visualization now is like where I know what's going to happen and I just like do it kind of instinctually. But one of the things that you have to pay attention to is the speed of the hit. You have to start kind of like getting a feel for it. It's something that you won't be able to tell, I think, early on, but the longer you go, the more you'll see that if you put right spin on this ball, it will throw it to the left through the gearing action. And then if you put left spin, it'll go the other way. It's basically, this is basically what's happening here. I have the whole aiming system.
Oh dang.
So your cue ball's here. You gotta understand the perspective, right? The ball is smaller because it's further away. That's something you gotta understand too, as it goes. But this is basically what's happening. You hit it, boom. But then when the balls are interacting, the action of this ball going past it is, in effect, it's actually going this way, and this ball is stationary, so it makes the ball turn, and that causes the bottom of it. What happens is the bottom of it, if you put this spin on it, like this spin, and it's rolling this way, it's gonna be like, the bottom of it's gonna make it roll, like turn this way, and that makes it actually roll like this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, like at the end of it, it's gonna like go, and then this way would actually swerve this way, because the kind of like the momentum of it makes it want to go this way around the circle. So, but like I said, you can mess around with that at home and start paying attention to it. But it's more like once you get more like where you can do it, then you, because it has to be like, the hard part is it's not repeatable unless you can be consistent. You know, and that's why I'm like, well, I don't even know if we should mess with that, because the nice thing about pool is that the pockets are big enough to where you're going to be able to get away with it.
Yeah,
you have a little bit of
at the
wiggle
beginning, as long as you stay away from the spin in the English, you're actually going to be better off, because it's not important. It's not. If you think long term, the more important thing to do, and the thing that people didn't do, the reason why they're not better is because they didn't do this work properly and like learn how to put the ball center. Like that is what you want. No like spinning, none of this. You don't want any of that.
The center is possible.
Yeah,
the center is possible.
When you want to hit to center, you can. That's what you want to be able to do. Most people aren't comfortable with that. Once you can learn how to hit every ball with center and make it, now when you start applying spin, you actually understand what's going on. Does that make sense? So it's like, to me, you don't even need to mess with this, with the spin stuff for a while. Because right now we're just going to get your stroke is looking really a lot more solid. So that's nice. You know, you're like, because, you know, when you go and play pool, you know, you're going to learn everything just by experiencing it. Just like fucking jiu-jitsu. It's the same thing. It's just like, you got to be shown, oh yeah, this is how you sweep somebody. This is the leverages and like the base and all that stuff. Like what's actually happening to make the other guy flip over. You know, if you don't really like, oh yeah, you got to get underneath them so they get wobbly, and then you can fucking defend them.
Yeah, once you feel it, you're like, oh, okay.
It's the same thing with English in this.
Man, Professor Josh tripod swept me the other day.
Dang. I think I tripod swept you the other day.
I was
No, I got you with the. Is that the tripod sweep? I don't even know the names of this shit.
The tripods were like you pull guard, and then you switch the other foot onto the hip and put the other leg behind the knee.
Oh,
and then like chop down from the hip and the knee.
Yeah, I think the one that I've been getting is like pushing your hips by pulling your feet. That one felt great. Dude, you're looking good now. So what I want you to focus on, if you can, is try to like figure out where you need to hit the ball to do that shot that I was talking about, where you just replaces. It's called the cueball replacement. Exactly. Because that is like, in order to do that shot, it's an exact power and height on the cue ball. So it's actually an exact shot. So
like the perfect shot.
Well, it's, you know, if you're planning for it and you hit it, you did exactly what you wanted to do. That's what you want to be able to do. Because in pool, the stun shot or the cue ball replacement shot, that's the most simple, like, complete shot in pool. Because like, ideally, every shot you shoot for the rest of your life, you should have a plan.
Yeah.
This is like one of those things where you can't just hit balls to see what happens so much, unless that's your plan, just to see what happens. You want to be like dictating what you want to have happen so that your body can try to make it happen for you. That's the shot you're practicing when you do this shot, because that will tell you all the information you need. Like you cut it slightly to the left and then hit it perfectly full, right? Exactly. That was just slightly above where you wanted to hit it. If you hit slightly below, then it would have rolled less. Does that make sense? So you want to be able, okay, I'm just trying to show you the information that you're getting from the shot so that you can get more precise. Because it's all about learning how to be more precise. A little bit of roll, and that's good. So if you hit just below where you're hitting now, then you should be right there. So that's 2 rolls. Now that's a stop shot. Right? But that's the thing. It's like, what I'm teaching you here is like, that stun shot is anything you hit above center, above that spot, because that is your center ball. Exactly. That was almost perfect. You just cut it just slightly this way, and that made the cue ball just barely go that way. But that's almost perfect.
But that was like,
but what happens is now that you understand what's going on there, if you cue lower on the cue ball, then it's going to stop or draw, and then you cue higher, it will follow. So now you know where your vertical axis, the center of the ball is, and that teaches you, you know, where you want to be, as far as like, now you know this shot, and you know how to draw from here. So if you hit below that, the same thing, you're going to draw the ball. But this is just like how you get more precise. Now, what you can do to mess around with your stroke is you can just try hitting it softly and then hit it, because you can hit it 2 ways. There's actually infinite ways to hit the exact same shot. That's the thing that's crazy about this.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you can either hit it lower and softer, because then the friction will like have more time to remove the backspin, the bottom spin, and that'll make it release. Or you can hit it harder and closer to the middle. Let me see if I can actually do it. I'm gonna try to hit it soft. But like if you hit it, you can hit it really low like this, right? And I didn't make it, but you see how the cue ball kind of did the same thing.
It did that same shot.
Versus hitting it hard but closer to the center. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So like even though the shot itself is very simple, there's actually unlimited ways to hit it almost. The better your stroke is, the more different ways you can make this shot happen. See, that was a stop shot, right? So you just gotta hit it a little bit softer. That was just almost, but not quite. So the point of that is that when you learn that different speeds, now when you have an angle, and you're using that same center ball hit, if I hit it harder, I get more distance of travel on the cut. Right? Mm-hmm. Now if I hit it softer but lower, I can achieve the same tangent line, because the cue ball will go off on the same tangent line. But now instead of it going all the way to the rail, I can maybe go to here, right? By hitting it the same spot on the cue ball, or the same spot on the 8 ball, just lower on the cue ball and up. You see how I'm still hitting the vertical axis, but you see how my position is totally different because I'm using more speed or less speed, but the angles are the same. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This is like one of the things about people, they don't know that this is like how it really works, because they use spin all the time. You know, it's like if I want to go to here, you can play exactly the tangent line, and I can end up maybe on that chalk piece, right? By just hitting it just below center. Right. That's it. I mean, it's not English. There's no left and right spin. It's just the speed of the stroke, and you're learning that. Mm-hmm. And when you start using that same stroke and then cutting the ball, you'll see how far it goes, and then you'll can come back and be like, okay, I gotta hit it softer or whatever. Instead of a few more and then be done. I feel like we're good, but the whole beginning, my whole position play and my whole game, I've refocused it to learn how to do that kind of stuff more, because that is so much more consistent than using spin to achieve the same thing, which is what most people try to do. Is they try to make that shot with English because that's what they are used to, but that's harder. You just have to learn how to hit it without English. Yeah, so, a week or two, you come back, we'll see where you're at. Yeah. Because I'm going to, I'll probably do a little bit of editing and maybe some voiceover, talk about some things. But I wanted to go over this with you just because you're pretty new, and I figured it would be good. Plus, anybody that watches it can get them. So, I don't know how many people are going to watch it, but it's not really important because I'm thinking way more long term, because we're not going anywhere. So it's
right. I mean, if
this
you just keep doing this.
Well, just think about 5 years from now where your game is at, and this is the first time you've been on camera playing pool. Mm-hmm. But that'll happen forever.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? So it's to me, it's this is all about the future. We're doing this to show you where you were when you were 20. When you're 21, 22, 23, your game's going to advance and level up, and you'd be looking back on this, being fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I used to suck. And now I'm a badass.
That's how I feel about jiu-jitsu. I mean, I still suck.
I suck.
Duh.
I'm just trying to survive. You're the only guy I can beat.
That's funny.
That's how it goes, man.
That's funny.
That's how it is. Eventually, dude, the war of attrition, you stick with it, and then those NFs, they ain't there anymore. And then there's new MFs to take those guys' place, and then you're just beating the shit out of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game. It's the same as pool. It's like I've had homies that I've been knowing for 20 years, and they're like, "Man, how did you get so good?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not as good at golf as you are, bro. That's why I stayed in the pool. That's
Right.
why. It's not. There's no magic to it. You just
He stayed on the course. You stayed in the pool hall.
exactly. You got too many hobbies.